holes in dirt to put that.
June 26, 2023, regular Wasilla City Council meeting is called to order. The time is 6 p.m. Before we begin, council, please put away cell phones. If you have personal business during the meeting, please move for a recess. If you're participating telephonically, please mute your phone unless speaking. Also, when speaking, please state your name for those streaming the meeting. As a reminder to all attendees, this meeting is being streamed live. The camera is located directly in the back of the council chambers above the clock. Robert's Rules of Order is the parliamentary authority for council meetings under Wasilla Municipal Code 2.04.090. Under this authority, I respectfully request council observe the following. Kindly seek recognition before speaking. That no member speaks more than twice on the same motion without an affirmative vote on a motion to suspend the rules. That no member speaks a second time until everyone who wishes to do so has spoken once. The purpose of recognizing these rules is to ensure the right to speak is equally respected and that discussion is not dominated. Madam Deputy Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Sullivan Leonard.
Here.
Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Vlock.
Here.
Councilmember Rubio.
Here.
You do have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. The first item of business is approval of the agenda. Are there changes to the agenda?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move item 8.3.1, resolution serial number 23-22 to the business.
Okay. Are there other changes?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I would like to move 8.3, items 3, resolution serial number 2324, and item 4, resolution serial number 2325, to new business, just to have a introduction and a description on record of these high-value items. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, was that 8.3 or 8.4?
8.3 and 4. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
No, I was just curious. Madam Mayor, I'd also like to move 8.4, 0.3, and 0.4 to new business. Or 8.4.
Which one on 8.4?
3 and 4.
Madam Mayor. Can I read mine?
Yep.
On the agenda tonight are AM 23, 23, 23, 24, and 23, 25 awarding contracts to Big Dipper Construction. 2 of the contracts are paving projects, and 1 contract is for equipment rental with operator. While I do not have a conflict of interest to declare, I want to make it public aware my relationship with Big Dipper Construction. The company is owned by my father. He is not a member of my household, and I have no financial interest in this company.
Okay, thank you. Are there other changes to the agenda? Is there objection to the agenda as stated? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as amended. We are special orders of the day. And I will read the proclamation recognizing Independence Day. City of Wasilla Proclamation recognizing Independence Day. Whereas June 11, 1776, the colony's Second Continental Congress met in Philadelphia and formed a committee whose express purpose was drafting a document that would formally sever their ties with Great Britain. And whereas July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was adopted, announcing the colony's separation from Great Britain. And whereas the nation's founding fathers declared to their fellow colonists and the world our inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas each year on July 4th, we celebrate the birth of our nation and the signing of the Declaration of Independence, recognizing our great country as an enduring symbol of freedom, equality, and opportunity for all. And whereas the freedoms that were won at the birth of our nation are defended each day by the dedicated men and women of the United States Armed Forces, past and present. And whereas Alaska is known as the last frontier, a great land of limitless opportunities, the spirit of our state lives on today as we continue to look to our bright and limitless future. Whereas on July 4th, 2023, we celebrate 247 years of independence. Now therefore I, Glenda D. Ledford, Mayor of the City of Wasilla, do hereby proclaim July 4th, 2023 as Independence Day in Wasilla and encourage all Alaskans to celebrate the birth of our nation and recognize the importance of our independence and freedom. Dated this 26th day of June, 2023. We are now at Commission and Agencies report. Deputy Administrator Nygaard, will you provide a report on the Planning Commission?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. The first business they took care of was a request by the council to rename Cruzy Street to Warrior Street, and the commission took action and passed for it to move to City Council to be heard in a public hearing on the 11th of July. They also passed a resolution to approve a 30-year lease for a new tenant at the airport. That's lot 22. They'll be building a new hangar, and we'll have 18 to 20 AMP mechanics, so that's great news for our airport. They also passed a variance for, had two setback conversations, and that was passed, and that legislation went out so that the owners of that property were able to sell it and move on. They did have some discussion around dog kennels and what that looks like in the city, if we should have them or not have them. They're still in discussion. The landscape standards, that plan came forward, but it was tabled until further notice. And so that's an update.
Question, Madam Mayor, if I
Yes.
can. About the landscaping, what does that mean till later?
So the final product is about 111 pages, and the commission did not have time to review it in its entirety. So they're going to take a little bit more time to review it and then get back to the council with some kind of decision. There was some discussion about going line by line by line that night, but it was already 9 o'clock, right? And so, they postponed it until later.
You want me to comment on it? Okay.
You're in the audience, you can't talk from the audience.
Yes, you can.
Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. One question on the planning. I see that we have two pieces of paper with short-term rental proposals which look to be yet to be acted on. I have a question relating to our short-term rentals. Does that fall under our sales tax provisions for the proceeds, or is there any financial impact to the city for approving short-term rentals like this?
I think I can answer. So short-term rentals is, we do receive the sales tax from short-term rentals.
Okay, we are now at public participation. There are no public hearings, so I'll move directly to persons to be heard. Persons to be heard is a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. And the first one is Mr. Stearns.
Good evening. My name is Tom Stearns. I'm the Senior Ambassador for the Wasilla Area Seniors Incorporated. So we've finally finished all our fundraising for the first half of this year. We had our Miles for Meals event on Saturday. It was well attended. People had fun, and although they never figured out the race course prior to the race, they had one when we got there. And we used the same race course as we have in the past, up the KGB, and except it wasn't paved this time. But everybody had a good time, and I don't think anybody got hurt, and so that was a good thing. And we had our picnic afterwards, and we did a great thing for the people that attended. Okay, we got rid of all the mosquitoes. There were no mosquitoes on property while we were there, so it was a great time. I asked, but because it was such a great time, none of the staff showed up on Monday, or the senior staff, so I couldn't get the statistics on what happened, and so I'm sorry I don't have all the numbers that I would normally have for you. However, the auction that we did last month, we had a fantastic time. There were 230 people that joined us, and we had 1,933 bids on different things that we were doing. So that was a good time. The Aspen House, breaking ground later this summer. That's exciting. More housing for seniors. And then here's an interesting statistic. Nutrition services. Year to date, WASI has served 105,679 meals to 1,173 seniors in our programs, just over the first 6 months, and not quite 6 months. Organization-wide, our programs have served 1,439 seniors. We thank all our sponsors and all of you for supporting us, but you can still support us with our nutrition program by sponsoring a lunch for $400 or a holiday meal for $500 if you're interested in that. Thank you very much, and I'm done.
Thank you, sir. Next is Karen Crandall. Hello. You can begin your testimony by stating your first and last name. Your comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Karen Crandall. I've lived here in Alaska since 1973. I've been a teacher in the Matsu Borough and in Anchorage, and I'm very concerned as a parent, a grandparent, and just as a citizen in our state to see a real degradation of the books that are appearing on the shelves for the adolescent, young children considered to be young adults, the age of 14, and it's a wrong labeling. In the Big Lake area, these books have been moved to the adult section, some of them have, and still I feel it's inappropriate because we're dealing with books that are very, and I read it last week that I was here, just very risque, perverted language, and a mindset that is very disturbing and distorted. And I'm very concerned about the mental health of our youth. I feel that they are being subjected to lots of perversion. And as a nation, and you were bringing up the foundation of our nation, it's very important for us to keep our freedoms, but freedom to be moral, not immoral. And so I just wanted to bring up a word in the book of Matthew, chapter 18, verses 3 through 5. Let's see. I tell you that unless you change and become like little children, you won't even enter the kingdom of heaven. So the greatest in the kingdom is whoever makes himself as humble as this child. Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. And whoever ensnares one of these little ones who trust in me, it would be better for him to have a millstone hung around his neck and be drowned in the open sea. Woe to the world because of snares, for there must be snares. But woe to the person or people who set the snares. So I feel these books are a huge snare to the moral fiber and conscience of our youth. They're happening in the schools. I don't know if you've ever looked at the bookshelves in most of the schools. I have. I guess once a teacher, always a teacher. I care about the moral fiber of our youth, and I feel that as a city council that you can have a voice and make sure that there's some regulation over the Wasilla Library. And so there's another scripture that comes to my mind, and it's in Matthew chapter 2, verse 18. A voice was heard in Ramah, sobbing and lamenting loudly. It was Rachel sobbing for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no longer alive. So we have, I don't know how much you research what's really happening. Everything's a big secret, but I feel things are coming out more and more, and we need to be aware of the situation.
And next we have Karen Lewis. And please begin your testimony by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Assembly. My name is Karen Lewis. I've lived in the Valley almost 40 years. It's very disturbing about these books. They're not only in the schools, they're in the public library also. I did some research on some of them, like Lovely Bones here. It's about a 14-year-old who was raped and then murdered by a 50-year-old man. This is the same author. 14-year-old girl raped, fisted, but that's what's in the book, fisted, urinated upon, sodomized. This is in the 14-year-old section. Flamer. This is about, there's a lot of things in there, but the thing that disturbed me the most is a group of young, probably 12 or 13-year-olds, sitting in a circle, boys. They masturbate into a bottle, and if someone doesn't do it, then they have to drink it. In our libraries. Yeah. Let's talk about it. There's a lot of talk about this one. And in Anchorage, it's 12 years old. It's 14 years old here. It's 12 years old in Anchorage. Let's talk about it. It has a lot of garbage in it. It's drawings, so it seems, not as bad, but it's about a young gal that's taking a picture, a selfie of her private areas. Very nice. So, and there's 43 books in the Wasilla Public Library. There's 56, I think, in the school district libraries throughout the borough. We're getting a lot of them moved to the adult section, but Eric Phillips, who is the Community Development Director, said, the community standard may be that a majority of borough residents do not think a 14 or 15-year-old should see some of these images or be exposed to certain aspects of human sexuality outlined in these books. Yeah, I guess not. He said, I would point out that anyone would still be able to check out the book. He doesn't say 14, he says anyone. This is, I don't know if Wasilla has obscenity laws. Palmer does. I'm going to give you a copy of that. Alaska does. I'll give you a copy of this. These books are obscene, at least according to about probably 75% of our community, because we are conservative. These are the books in the Wasilla Library. And if you want to get the excerpts like from these, I'll give you these too, so you can see them. It gives you the page and what it says, so you don't have to read through the whole book. But you just go to booklooks.org. This is for the Wasilla books, and this is for the school district books. Thank you very much. Please do something about this. I know that the Palmer City Council, the deputy mayor, is doing something about it. She's trying to make things easier to go through the process of removing the books, the bad books. Thank you. Who shall I give this to? The clerk? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council at this time? Hearing none, we are now at the consent agenda. Madam Deputy Clerk, please read the title of the items for approval under the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have the regular meeting minutes of June 12th, 2023, and there are no introductions up for public hearing on July 10th, 2023. There are 2 resolutions recommended for approval under the consent agenda this evening. The first one is Resolution Serial Number 2323, authorizing the execution and delivery of a third supplement to the indenture of trust relating to the City of Wasilla Variable Rate Demand Revenue Bonds, South Central Foundation Project, Series 2014A and Series 2014B, the execution and delivery of other documents necessary or convenient to carry out the terms thereof, and providing for related matters. The second resolution is Resolution Serial Number 2326, adopting fiscal year 2024 salary structure and pay ranges for International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 302, Wasilla Police Department Employees Association, and non-represented employees. There are 2 action memorandums recommended for approval. The first one is AM number 2322, confirming the appointment of Catherine Cottle to the Planning Commission, CD. And number 2, AM number 2323, contract amendment to Big Dipper Construction in the amount of $63,541.28 for the paving of the Idita Park gravel sections of the pathway. Those are the items on tonight's consent.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Second that.
It's been moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Vlock to approve the consent agenda as read. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. There's no items of business under unfinished business, so I'll move directly to the new business.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's Resolution Serial Number 2322, adopting the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy for the City of Wasilla and the Greater Wasilla Economic Area as required by the Federal Economic Development Administration. This was pulled by Councilmember Graham under approval of the agenda.
Mr. Graham,
Madam Mayor, I move approval of resolution serial number 2322.
is there a second?
Second by Councilman Johnson.
It's been moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to approve resolution serial number 2322. Is there discussion? Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have some questions that I think our Deputy Administrator can probably answer for me, since she was the most involved in this plan. I noticed on page 33 of the SEDS that the Connect Fairview area has grown by about 26% in 10 years, and the City of Wasilla has grown by about 14% in that same time period. And yet, when I look at pages 72, 73, 74, showing the cost of items and who's going to essentially take the lead of these items, the City of Wasilla is picking up the majority of the lead, so I'm guessing, are we picking up the majority of the tab for those items as well, even though we're only about a third of that greater Wasilla economic area? I'm just kind of concerned here that we're obligating ourselves to pay for programs for the entire economic area, but I'm not sure that that's exactly what this says. Are we just taking the lead to coordinate that, and then we'll coordinate payment through the borough and the state, or are we obligating ourselves to those items, like conduct a utility rate study? Are we obligating ourselves to do that at our expense?
Thank you, Graham, for that question. So just to address your first observation about the growth is, it's coming down to land, and we know that we have very limited amount of land here in Wasilla proper. So I think we'll continue to see growth. For your second question, what we're obligated, and this example that you gave as a utility rate study, we're obligated to do those validation of what does it cost for the utilities, what does it cost for the improvement of utilities, and that is purely to look at it very comprehensively over the next 20 years. So what we're obligated to do is to have that third party verify that we understand what the utility costs are going to be and what our rate should be in the next 20 years. And we are taking the lead on coordinating that. Now, if the borough wanted to say, look in this area for an expansion, that would be a conversation that we would coordinate, but that is clearly not our cost in that area. Our cost is in the city of Wasilla.
So even though this comprehensive economic development strategy, this document, which is very well done, by the way, even though this document says this is going to happen, it doesn't mean that the city of Wasilla is going to make that happen. And if it doesn't happen, then what happens to the document? I mean, are there individual things that can just be lined out of this as time goes by? If we say, well, we need to conduct a rate study, and the borough says, well, go ahead, do it on your own, and we say, well, we'll do a third of it, you do 2/3 of it. I mean, if we line things out of this, does it kill the whole project? I mean, since this is tied to federal funding, I'm kind of curious exactly how that relationship is going to work on areas where we are defined as the lead agency and there is money estimated to be spent. I mean, where's that money coming from? If we don't spend it, does it kill the whole plan?
So these goals that we've listed is clearly a framework for the recipient, the Economic Development Administration, to understand that collectively we all understand in the region that these are priorities. Now, we can eliminate some. They don't want us to add any, but we do also have to update it every year of where we are in the process. The reason why it's really important that we put our partners like this rate study is this interconnect that we're doing over by the hospital. We're within 2 miles of connecting with Palmer for pressure in case of, primarily it's a redundancy project in case we had a storm. Well, if that project is successful in the engineering part of it, then the next is the construction, and potentially if we wanted to expand our utilities into one region, we would have to confirm, and I think the residents of Wasilla want us to verify that that's an economic advantage for the city of Wasilla to participate in that, but there's also an obligation from other partners like the borough or the city of Palmer. So this really is a vehicle for us to explore this expansion and this growth, but it does not obligate us financially other than to the city of Wasilla, because we have the utilities and we don't have taxation in other parts of it. It's purely the city of Wasilla. And we also owe it to our customers to understand what this piece of infrastructure costs today and what it's going to cost 20 years and how we should price those utilities. So it's no surprise. So when we go to EDA, they're going to want to say, okay, you guys did this study. It's clearly, from an engineering standpoint, it's feasible. you're gonna construct this piece of infrastructure, and then what? And they're gonna look at our plan to ensure that we all agree that this is good for the area. So that's how that will work.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. And I have one other question, just in general, I can wait if you prefer, I guess.
No, go ahead and ask.
So,
Got the floor.
yeah, the other question would have to do with annexation. You know, obviously, we're limited, we have a fairly limited area here in Wasilla, and yet we are the economic hub of the Mat-Su borough. The majority of the growth is obviously gonna happen outside of the city of Wasilla, but there's no mention of annexation in the plan, or perhaps when I was reading through the 100 pages, I missed it, but but I don't see any mention of annexation in the plan, and you said we can delete things from the plan, but we can't add things to the plan. So during that annual review process, could annexation be one of those things that is brought up as part of the sets?
So that's exactly right. When we do our year update to EDA, we can say, under our goal for business diversification or infrastructure expansion, we have looked at a part of our city that could meet that objective. And we are exploring what annexation would look like. The annexation rule, because you have to either go through the legislature or you have to have 100%, it's quite labor intensive, and it also has some pretty fine art on how that goes through, how you message the public. So we would have to be very clear on why we wanted to even put that forward as one of our initiatives under a goal, and what data we have to back up that we could be successful doing that. But annexation in general, that was not addressed. It was never brought up in the steering committee, and it wasn't brought up in any of the meetings that we did, from the Valley Board of Realtors to the Rotary to the Chamber of Commerce's. Nobody even brought that word up. And so it may be something as we start working in understanding how we diversify or expand our infrastructure, or even on the community development side, it may have to be a conversation, but that would come before the council.
Okay, I'm not sure I got an answer to the question. Is if the city decides to annex land, is that going to affect the sets?
So it will affect the SEDS in the sense that this is a planning document, and they want us to clearly plan for annexation. So in that case, we would have to go to EDA. We would have to say, there is something that we've discovered under this goal that we would like to add to the plan, and then we could ask for that request to modify our SEDS. So there is a way we can do that. But
So-
we are new to this game, so.
Right. Well, as are most communities. But EDA is not going to prevent us from annexing if the council decides and goes through the process of annexing and decides that that's appropriate. This SEDS and the EDA would not prevent us from doing that.
Correct.
Thank you.
This is our plan.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is there other discussion on 23-22?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Johnson?
in reading through the resolution, by accepting this, we are actually then committing ourselves to continual participation in the SEDS, which is probably appropriate. Could you please refresh my memory on ordinance serial number 2214, which talked about the matching funds from the city to fund our continuing participation in the SIDS?
Deputy Administrator.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. So this does complete the initial project costs that we did for the matching dollars, and we stayed well within that budget. In fact, we probably have a little bit that we need to get back to. And then going forward, if there is a grant that is identified that we want to apply for, then EDA would tell us if there were matching funds that we would have to put forward, which would require us to do a resolution or some type of legislation to come forward. This is the project, and an example is updating the comp plan. If we wanted to update the comp plan and they said, we will give you a planning grant for $200,000, but there is a 20% match, then we would come forward to the council to get that additional funds.
Madam Mayor, I'm not sure that they quite answered my question. Then what is going to be our commitment to city dollars in the SIDS going forward, say in 2023, 2024?
So we do not have, in our budget, we do not have any project dollars in our budget for any grant that we would receive through EDA. And part of that is because a lot of these grants are very department specific. It may be a public works project, it could be a utility project, but for the economic development SEDS itself, there is not an additional operating cost to the city other than my time.
One follow-up question then. So our continued participation then is going to be just through our burdened costs of salaries within the existing departments that would participate in the committee. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Mr. Brown?
Through the mayor, through the city administrator, just to clarify, this is a Wasilla plan. This is for Wasilla. It includes areas outside Wasilla, but this is a Wasilla plan. So this is to promote our growth and to promote where we want to go with this plan. And anybody else who is a participant, we are the drivers. We are not participants. We are the drivers on this.
Correct.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, then the motion passes. Okay, and the next one, Ms. Deputy Clerk.
Madam Mayor, this is resolution serial number 2324, authorizing the amendment to the terms of the $55 million City of Wasilla Revenue Bond, South Central Foundation Project, Series 2017, the execution and delivery of other documents necessary or convenient to carry out the terms thereof, and providing for related matters. This was pulled by Councilmember Johnson under approval of the agenda.
Is there a motion to approve resolution serial number 2324?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve 2324.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Graham to approve resolution 2324. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor, my interest in moving this to new business, as previously stated, was just simply to get an overview of what is happening with a $55 million budget item. So if you could please just give us a top-level summary of what's going on record, I'd sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Finance Director Miller.
Member Johnson through the mayor. So, resolution serial number 2324 references conduit debt that was previously issued by the city on behalf of South Central Foundation. Conduit debt is not a debt that is a burden to the city. We do not owe any balance on it. It is debt of the South Central Foundation. This series of bonds still has balances remaining outstanding. The financing agreements associated with that conduit debt makes reference to a benchmark financing rate called LIBOR, the London Interbank offered rate. That rate is now sunsetting in the financing world, and it is being replaced by a different benchmark rate called the SOFR, unsecured overnight finance rate. This allows the South Central, because we were part of that conduit debt arrangement, they need to get permission from the city of Wasilla to update that rate. And just for the record, the conduit debt, while it is not debt to the city, it is a mechanism that allows South Central to use our tax exempt status when they issue bonds for said projects.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next resolution is Resolution Serial Number 2325, authorizing the amendment to the terms of the $38 million City of Wasilla Revenue Bond, South Central Foundation Project, Series 2020, the execution and delivery of other documents necessary or convenient to carry out the terms thereof, and providing for related matters. This was pulled by Councilmember Johnson under the approval of the agenda.
Is there a motion to approve Resolution Number 2325?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution Serial 2325.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
The motion's been made by Councilmember Johnson and seconded by Councilmember Graham to approve Resolution Serial Number 2325. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Johnson?
so based on the discussion on serial number 2324, I'm assuming this is a very similar thing with just a different issuance on the bond per the resolution. Is that correct?
That is correct. This just references a different series of bonds. Same situation.
Thank you. Now I understand that.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next item under new business is AM number 2324, contract award to Big Dipper Construction in the amount of $1,065,062 for the city's road paving program 2023 through 2024. This was pulled by Councilmember Graham under approval.
Is there a motion to approve the AM 23-24?
Madam Mayor, I move AM 2324.
Is there a second?
I second that.
It's been moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Velock to approve AM 23-24. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For our Public Works Director, I just wanted to be brought up to date on if any of these projects that are listed on page 167 of the agenda are projects that were carryovers from last year's budget, which basically ends here in a couple of days. The 2023-24 budget starts the 1st of July, and we had terrible weather last summer and we're unable to pave, but I'm going crazy with paving and doing a lot of those projects. But I do see Holiday Drive on here, and I thought that was one of last year's projects. Are there any of the projects that we were trying to complete last year on this list carried forward, or how's this list put together? Or are these all the new projects that we looked at?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Last year's paving contract was not completed by the end of the paving season because of the weather, as you mentioned. It's my understanding in years past, there is really no spring paving that takes place because you're usually fortunate enough to have the fall weather to finish out a complete paving contract. What you're seeing this spring is the completion of last year's contract. This new contract is going to start July 1st. And we will pave until we have to stop, but this is not containing any pavement from last year's contract. We're going to complete last year's and move directly into this one if it's approved tonight by the council. We're in a weird situation where We'll probably be in a summer, spring paving schedule from now on because of what the rains last summer did to us. But with us being able to start paving as soon as the asphalt plant opened this spring, it means we're going to have a continual paving season this year. Finishing out last year's contract, starting this year's contract and paving until we have to stop. And there's likely probably going to be some residual paving on this, if approved, contract next spring. And we'll do this all again with the next batch. So because we had a bid for last year's segment of work, this is all new work on this year's new contract.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is there further discussion on AM 2324?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Johnson?
Madam Mayor, to Public Works Director, with regard to 2323, which we already approved under the consent agenda, and this one, 2324 and 2325, they're all going to Big Dipper. I don't have any problem with it. They were the lowest bidder in every case. The question that I have is just sort of a general feeling. Do they actually have the capability to provide this much work and service to the city? And was that taken into account in the bidding process?
Through the mayor, schedule is very important to us. We've always been in close contact with Big Dipper. They have quite a few available crews this year. We're not seeing any indication that they don't have the staffing they need. We've been exceedingly impressed with their availability for multiple projects. As you mentioned, they are a low bidder because they're able to outcompete their competitors. On the paving bid, there was 3 different bidders, including Dipper, so they continue to be the low bid, and we're very satisfied with the number of crews and their availability this summer.
Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next action memorandum is AM number 2325, contract extension to Big Dipper Construction in the amount of $600,629 to extend the city's existing equipment rental with operator contract. This was pulled by Councilmember Johnson under approval of the agenda.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve AM 23-25?
Madam Mayor, just a correction, that was pulled by Councilmember Graham. Councilmember Graham moves action memorandum 2325. Just correction to the record.
Is there a second?
Second by Councilman Johnson.
It's been moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to approve AM 23-25. Is there discussion? Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Once again, to our Public Works Director, one of our goals for the last several years has been the eradication of invasive plants, particularly the weeds on the roadway. Ones that have been noted the most are the soapweed and the purple vetch. And we've had problems with that in years past because you've got a really short window to be able to get out there and get that stuff done. I mean, there's only 10 days maybe when you can get out there and get that done, and it's during the height of the season for Dipper and other contractors. So the people available to do it are generally the lawn maintenance guys that have got the stuff that can get out there in the rocks and knock that stuff down before it produces a bunch of spores that are going to produce even more weeds 2 years down the road. Does this contract prevent you from going out and hiring small contractors as needed? I'm looking through the stuff here. I don't, I don't see anything about, that would prevent that, but I'm just not sure exactly how that works. But I mean, for that invasive weed program to work, I mean, we need to be able to reach out to the little guys in the city and say, hey, can you go do a mile worth of, XYZ road and knock down all that soapweed out there?
Through the mayor, this agreement does not limit us in contracts. This is a vehicle for expediency for projects. It pre-vets contractor for the projects that have been selected on this list, but by no means does it give the current contract holder control over future contracts. If we want to make a project and fund a weed abatement project, there's no reason that we can't find a willing contractor to bid on that.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is there further discussion on AM 2325? Hearing none. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. I think that's all. We are now at communications. The items presented are for informational purposes only. Madam Deputy Clerk, please read the title of the IM and meeting minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one informational memorandum, IM number 2312, monthly financial reports for the period ending May 31st, 2023, to include the month-to-date expenditure report and disbursements greater than $10,000, and the Planning Commission meeting minutes of June 13th, 2023.
Thank you. We are on to audience comments. It's a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. Is there anyone present who would like to address the council? Seeing no one, we will close audience comments and bring it back to the dais. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, July 10th at 6 p.m. Also, council members, if you would like to attend the AML Summer Legislative Conference, please submit your travel forms to Ms. Benji. Thank you.
Madam Attorney.
I have no comment, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Rubio.
No comment.
Councilmember Villock.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to thank the people for coming tonight who spoke and about the Wasilla City Library. I was under the impression last time they came that we didn't have any questionable books in the young adult section. So I just wanted to make a comment that I'll be checking in on that. I don't think it should be there either. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No comment.
Councilmember Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Of course, I would like to echo the mayor's comments about July 4th and her proclamation. I mean, it's important that we realize the reason for that holiday, the reason that we are celebrating, and that we stand behind those who stand behind us no matter what. I know everybody thinks, well, the military makes a tremendous sacrifice by serving, but by serving they are also saying that they are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. They are willing to give their life in defense of your freedom and your ideals and your country. So, please celebrate July 4th. Have a great time, but just take a minute to realize why we are doing that, and that our forefathers made a great sacrifice, and that our persons serving now are willing to make that great sacrifice as well. And it seemed to me that in the minutes of the Planning Commission, perhaps I misunderstood what I heard. It was the Cruzy Street rename was going to be sent to the council, but the date I heard was July 11th, and our meeting is on the 10th. Did I mishear something? Is it going back to planning for consideration on the 11th, because that's their meeting, or is it coming to us on our meeting of July the 10th?
So it is scheduled for the city council one, which would be July
July 10th.
10th.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
we
you.
have to correct that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I was just a bit confused there, which is not unnatural for me, so that's fine. Would also like to comment about Big Dipper construction. You know, I live on East Susitna Avenue, as does Mr. Johnson. Dipper has been running trucks for 2 weeks up and down our road, doing a lot of work, you know, paving and pre-paving work over by the depot as it was moved, and also along Depot Road and Susitna Road over there. And I would just like to say, you know, pardon my French, but they did a hell of a job. They made sure they didn't interfere with operations in the subdivision there. They made sure they were very respectful of the kids that are in that street all the time. They obviously took time to make safety their first priority, as well as getting the job done. So I just wanted to congratulate Dipper and congratulate our Public Works Department on not riding herd on them, but making sure that that was one of the priorities. That makes them look good, makes the city look good, and I hope we can continue to get that kind of service from our contractors, because we, you know, often hear about contractors that are rude or whatever. I mean, that has not been the case on this project, and it's been going on for 3 weeks or so. I think it's finally finished for now. We'll probably get restarted in a couple of weeks, but they've done a heck of a job, so I really appreciate that. And I know several folks in my neighborhood have commented to me that it's nice to have a contractor that's paying attention and not in such a big hurry that you know, destroys the whole feel of the neighborhood while that project is going on. And then lastly, you know, thanks to everybody that's here. It's always great to have everybody here. I know there's always better things to do, and the limit is 9 on the Russians, so but thanks for being here tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Sullivan Leonard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I wish I was fishing. Anyway, thank you, Council. I really appreciate all of your work. The only comments I have tonight are with regard to Kinnikus Bay Road construction. They're just doing a heck of a job moving things forward, getting things work-wise on intake and output for the road project. The only question I have is with our public works, if they have heard any complaints from local businesses with regard to the construction.
Public Works Director Eric Shaw.
Through the mayor, I'm not aware of any complaints having to do with the road construction. We've been coordinating with Granite, the contractor, for periodic water shutoffs. So we've frustrated a few customers turning the water off in the middle of their shower, but we're doing the best to let everyone know. So if you do have the water turned off on you and you weren't notified, we want to make sure that we correct that. So, but haven't heard any complaints against Granite for the major project. We're just trying to turn the water on and off with people's notification first.
Okay, that sounds great. The other part was just making sure that patrons had access to the local businesses up and down KGB during the construction season. But anyway, that's all I have tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to reiterate Councilman Graham's comments with respect to Big Dipper and completing that project, along with our efforts to really make that a very nice project. People have driven down that road. I'm sure you're going to see a huge improvement in the landscaping and the looks of the project. My only question then would be, now that we've leveled this off and made it really look pretty nice, are we planning on doing some sort of a planting or put any kind of flora in there to really improve that its looks and that it'll hold its current appearance?
Through the mayor, we intend to hydro seed portions of the graded area. If you see where the track marks are from the dozers, that'll be hydro seeded soon. We also hope to pave some more of the parking lots that have been graded. So our goal is to stabilize either through pavement, some D1, or asphalt the rest of the area. There is one infiltration basin that will be rocked and will remain mostly unvegetated so that the percolation is optimized. But yeah, we're about halfway done with the work. We have been coordinating with the railroad. They have us doing some work right against railroad tracks. We're almost done with that. It'll make Whistle Stop a lot safer, and it has to do with drainage concerns that they came to us with after we got most of the way done. So we're just fine tuning it so it meets their standards. And then we'll be back a little bit later to do those hydroseeding and asphalt projects.
Thank you.
Okay. Big Dipper did an awesome job over there. I've been over there twice looking, and thinking, oh, we could do this here and this here. We could attract whoever, move Wednesday Market. I've got it all planned out in my head. So, just so you know, Eric. But anyway, don't forget, July the 4th is Wasilla's Time to Shine. We are having a parade. We have over 60 floats as of right now. And you always have some right at the last minute. So it's going to be great. We are celebrating WPD's 30th anniversary. And wait till you see the city float. It's great. So there's no executive session scheduled, so I will move directly to adjournment. Since there's nothing else to come before this council, we are adjourned at 7:01.